Today we're ending up with the soul forces. You know, last week we looked at the 5 Pandavas, the 5 divine consciousnesses. That's in your, all the way from your root chakra to your cervical center. And they are the principles in this battle that you and I are in. I mean, another way to say it, that we all have a very serious ailment in that we're bipolar. We're divine beings, and yet we're fooled to think that we are human with our limitations. That's a serious bipolar disorder, if you know what I mean. Another way to look at it, there's a great Armageddon going on. There's a great battle. There's the inflowing force of spirit to say, come home, darling. It's been way too long. I want you home, all of you. And I got so many things to share. It's been a while, right? Let's celebrate. I want to show you around your kingdom that you've forgotten all about. And there's another force to keep creation in existence. So you might think, oh, it's the dark force. And well, it is dark because it does take our attention away from the light. So you call it the dark force. And it's keeping creation going, and it's an outgoing force. And that's why there's a duality. Outgoing, ingoing. What great entertainment is that? 2 opposing teams. That's why sports is what it is. 2 opposing teams. None of you would go down to Charger Stadium on a Sunday in November and watch the Chargers play the Chargers. I don't think they would get much interest in that. No, they're playing an opposing team. And it's very entertaining. And it's big business and big dollars, right? So that's the entertainment that God planned for this world. And he felt very confident that you as a soul weren't going to hang out longer than necessary here. But you read in the Gita, so much stuff. You know, Dayama said that the Gita was Yogananda's greatest work. Or the commentary that you have in these 2 volumes. This is his greatest work. And you're just reading along and go, whoa! And you're reading along, whoa! And that's in the same page. And you go, I never heard that before. And it's true. We don't hear truth because we can only take in so much. So that's why it's always good to go back and reread, because you're in a different place. And you go, well, I never saw that before. But he said, no, God wanted this to be entertainment, wanted it to be, he thought it would be a breeze for you and I to remember ourselves as soul and go home. And to enjoy. The only purpose of even having the duality in the game is that you and I can be like the ones that win the Super Bowl or the World Series. You know, that joy, that exaltation after a long season or many seasons and all the hard work. And you finally are victorious. You win the highest prize that you could win in that sport. That's an exaltation. That is a joy. And what about when you realize that you are already one with the divine? And that you're the prince or princess, or you're the queen and the king, returning home to your kingdom. And everything that God is, you are, and everything God has is yours. Now that is worth, I think, the creation. However, you know, we've gotten caught up with this outgoing force. And we've been playing around, getting hurt, getting heartbroken, getting sick, dying in war. And now it's very, very difficult to reclaim that true nature of ours. Thus, God gives us the Bhagavad Gita and gives us someone like Yogananda to translate it. So we're at that point now where we're going to look at all the soul forces, because the next 2 weeks we're going to look at the opposing forces to the soul. So what I did, this is a massive handout, and I know I give you massive handouts, and I give you so many quotes, but I've already given you the reasons for that, because I just feel the presence so strong in just preparing the homework for you that I can't resist the invitation by God to do the homework this way. It may not always be. We'll just stay in tune. But what I did is to put together everything that was a handout since session 1. I combined them into, you know, the chakras, so that you have in your chakras these warriors that are the allies to the 5 principles. So you know, you have Sahadeva at your root, you have Nakula at your sacrum, you have Arjuna at your 3rd, you have Bhima at your 4th, and you have the older brother Yudhishthira at your 5th, at your cervical. But what we're going to learn today And this is the blessing to have Patanjali enter the picture, and they don't really know when that was, so many thousands of years. There's a lot of speculation to when Patanjali, but he was a God knower. He was a realized soul. And whereas Krishna in the Gita kind of, or Vyasa, the writer, the Gita talks in terms of an allegory of the soul returning home to spirit, well, Patanjali, through his intuition, say, no, this is an exact science. That his mission was to write down in the Yoga Sutras, and then what is most common and accepted as yoga is the Eightfold Path of Yoga. But still, there's very little understanding about the Eightfold Path of Yoga. The exact step-by-baby step that you and I can take scientifically to return to oneness with Spirit. And so he, in tune with Vyasa, in tune with Krishna, came up with what he was a correlation to the main figures or the principles which we now know all symbolize a spiritual quality or something of the creation that is opposing the spiritual quality. He came up with a correlating name, metaphorically meaning the same thing. So that's what we're going to look at today. So I added his allies. Now these are metaphysical allies to what we know now already existing as the divine consciousness that's in your causal spine. See, these elements aren't physical elements. The root chakra, earth, and the water, and the sacrum, and the fire, and the lumbar, and the air, and the ether in your cervical. They're not just physical elements. They're divine vibratory consciousness that is rooted in your causal spine, which we said last week that your causal brain is this ever-conscious, ever-existing, ever-new joy. And it downloads wisdom into every one of your causal cells, the wisdom of bliss. And that's happening right now. Can you imagine? Your soul as encased, indwelled in the cause. That's where your soul's perfect. It doesn't need a body, but it first shows up in that. Remember I told you about the little sperm in the ovum forming that embryo? It first shows up as the immortal soul. Boom! And this little embryonic thing you can't even see. That's the first thing, the soul in the causal brain. And then the causal bodies form, and then the life energy body, the intelligent life energy that actually grows you and me. Did you guys realize that you were growing? And that same force is with you now that you're growing. I hope you haven't gotten too sophisticated. Right? And you know so much now. You've forgotten about the force that grew you as an embryo and developed your fingers and your toes and your organs and your bloodstream and your nervous system and your brain. That's an intelligent force, you know. So that's your astral body that created your physical body. So now we're going to pair up these allies with one of those brothers. So I've made some artistic license in pairing them up, but I think you'll probably agree with me. And if you don't, then don't disagree with me. Because it's a good stab, right? And in some cases, they actually absolutely mesh with that consciousness that's in the chakras. So play along with me then as we kind of go through, we'll go up the spine, where last week I kind of started you with spirit oneness, and then we looked at the palace soul, right? And then we looked at wisdom bliss, and then we looked at divine calmness, and then we looked at the vitality of life force and love, and then we looked at Arjuna, which we like to say is Lord of the senses. And then we looked at Nakula, which is the things that we want to do, adhere to, stick-to-itiveness, right? And then we looked at Sahadeva, which is at your root, which is, quite frankly, that this power to restrain. I like to think about it as restraining from being interested in anything but God. So I said, if nothing else, just sit out and shut up. And strap yourself into the meditation chair, right? And receive what's yours. Can you imagine? Infinite wealth, infinite happiness, infinite wisdom. And I made the analogy, God's pouring that in, and we're this cup of intuition. And we're so restless in life that we're like this. And this infinite blessings upon blessings. And so we said at the end of the session last night, just stop. Receive. Receive. Relax. Retire into your true nature as a soul. And let your causal body and your soul fill you up. So really, it isn't complicated. It's about how you and I can, I guess it would start with a belief, right? That this wisdom, which isn't mine. And Yogananda will say, it ain't his, right? He just tuned in, and then it was passed down from Babaji, Larry Mahashai, Sri Yukteswar, and Dehab, and he just said, no, I have nothing to do with it. He just tuned in that you could have the faith, that just tune in. This is coming direct from the One to you. No intermediaries. I think any great scripture, any great teaching, there's no intermediaries. I don't care if it's Muhammad, the Quran, the Tanakh, whatever. Doesn't matter. This is coming direct from the One who created you, saying, it's time for you to quit playing with the storm of delusion. Unless you guys want to continue playing. I know. I see you guys are battle-scarred. Huh? You're smiling, but I know you've been through hell. And so have I. And you know why? Because we don't, like Abraham Lincoln say, we're not going to be attacked from the outside. We're going to be attacked from the inside. And on a daily basis, you and I walk around and we're still believing in our limited thoughts. And we're still being pulled by desires that every time we have them fulfilled, they make us unhappy.